Hello, nice to have you here, Tatiana, here inside of your work, Oculus.
Thank you for having me.
And you are a neuroscientist at the Charité, we know. I assume you work in research. Can you tell us about that? About your research?
Sure. Yes, I'm currently working at Charité. I've been there since my master's studies, and that was starting about 6 years ago, and actually also, well, we can get to that, but that's about when EDGE was also created with my peer, Amy Young, and Ian Eric Stewart, and I did a master's there on medical neuroscience. So my research now is also in the neurosciences, in behavioral research. So it's systems biology, systems neuroscience, and behavioral science. And the research now basically focuses on various senses, including vision, motor, movement, navigation through space with the entire body, and the circuitry in the brain that is involved in this.
What is your motivation to combine the two fields of art and neuroscience?
So there is definitely a lot there, but I guess the main purpose there is that I definitely am inspired by art as a communication tool. So that's what we do with EDGE, Neuroscience Art and Art. That's a Verein currently in Berlin. We're an international community, and with that and with Oculus, which is the piece we're sitting in now, which is like one of my main artworks currently. The motivation there is to combine neuroscience and art, and that is where art practices, the various art mediums are used to communicate and discover and further understand various complex neuroscientific topics that sometimes we can't fully capture in words.
Do you see structural similarities between the process of scientific knowledge and artistic work, or do you see two autonomous approaches in this?
I guess I see it. This is a question that we come across a lot in our workshops and our discussions. We often have like a guest lecture from the neuroscience fields and the guest lecture from the art field, and we approach like maybe a specific subject about the brain, about consciousness, about mental health from the neuroscientific perspective and from an artistic perspective. And there you have to dive into how those things are separate, of course, because they're both very intricate, large fields with their own history and their own nuances and their own techniques. However, then we land, of course, I think after a lot of workshops and a lot of discussion, it becomes very clear how these things have a lot of similarities between them, from, let's say, just the thought process behind it. Both are very creative. You have to, there's no straight answer for either of those fields as you approach a question, as you approach any problem at hand that you have to solve, or an object or material or something you're trying to express artistically. You have to think outside the box, you have to think in a larger scale, and be very creative in how you kind of find a network of various relationships inside of those fields to make like new sense out of it, or maybe a sense out of it in a little bit of a different perspective than it was found before. I think both are very like research is like a very important aspect for both neuroscience and art. The process, like for both fields, in neuroscience, science is not just the application of knowledge that matters. And in art, it's not just the object that we look at and think in 1 second, oh, I like that, or oh, I don't like that. It's there's so much more behind that, and more of the process is about the research that goes into it. So to accomplish both tasks. So in that way, they're very also similar. I can go on from a lot of time.
Yes.
I think we can discuss this on and on. That's basically what we do with Edge, and it's exciting, I think, to find this overlap.
Knowledge about beauty is called with a Greek word aesthetics, and this means perception. And this is from Baumgarten in the 18th century, but astronomy means the same, and Aristotle has said the absolutely primary sense of the episteme is vision. At Eisler we deal quite intensively with perceptual processes, especially with optical and visual process, and with attention and meaning, all areas that in my opinion also play a major role in creativity, in artists' belongings. How do you see the references here between creativity and attention and meaning and all these psychological aspects of perception?
So, yeah, I guess I have to say that visual perception has definitely been a huge driver and inspiration for my thought processes and my work, neuroscientifically and artistically. Especially in the last few years, those have always I've been navigating those things together, so it's very difficult for me to even separate, because I'm informed by both. I'm informed by both sides as I work on my neuroscience and I work on my art. I think the experiences I've had visually, just as a human being, have definitely brought my attention to the fact that vision is such a key factor in my attention and meaning for me as a human, and for humans it is a huge sense for us. I mean, we have our other senses like smell and touch and hearing, and those are also play a huge role as well. That's what we talk about in our series Sensoriality. But vision is definitely like where it starts for me, and that is why I chose to make this giant eyeball Oculus, because I was inspired by the various aspects of it, from the pure neuroanatomy of it, from the front of the eye to the back of how visual perception is further transmitted. The information is transmitted, light to chemical to our brain, and then further to, you could say, higher processes such as our attention and meaning. So yeah, in that the eye is definitely inspired by both, and and my artwork as well. And so the meaning there, I guess, in this moment, it lies a lot in neuroscience, from like a biological standpoint, from a behavioral standpoint. So Berlin Science Week, just for background, for those that don't know, is a wonderful event that happens in Berlin. It's a 10-day event. It's in the beginning of November, all throughout Berlin, and various artistic and scientific venues and institutes and hospitals, galleries, museums. There are events dedicated to science and art on their own and the intersection. And as I said, it's a huge thing of what we do with Edge, Neuroscience and Art. So as our participation this year, we're actually involved in 2 events, and one will be on the Saturday. I believe that's, I won't say the date to get it wrong now, but we'll be here at I-Square. We're very excited to be here again. And we'll have a workshop, which is, mimicking similar, again, involving similar topics that we've been covering, which is how neuroscience can be further communicated through art. And that will be in a workshop style. And then the next day we will be at Holzmarkt, which is a market art venue inside in Friedrichshain-Kreuzberg, and there we'll have our artists and neuro artists, we like to call them, showing their art and available for a talk. And so it's nice space to meet our community and for us to also further talk to others that are interested on the subject.
To present it worldwide in our Berlin venue. Very nice. Thank you very much for your answers and for coming and for your wonderful art piece Oculus, where you're sitting in.
Thanks for coming in.
We see
we're inside the eye.